Hey there everybody, Chrissy here, and today I'm going to show you how to make this card. So I am using some Lawn Fawn products. We have teamed up with Lawn Fawn for a special collaboration. So I decided to do something kind of fallish. It's that time of year and I love fall and Halloween. So I am using the super cute Critters and Costume stamp set, and I'm just stamping that on some white cardstock, and I'm putting it in a stamping tool just because I want to get a nice crisp solid line. And now I'm just going to cover it with some clear embossing powder. I'm doing this because I'm going to color it in with some alcohol markers, and sometimes the alcohol markers, depending on what color I'm using, they can kind of blur the ink. So just to be safe, I cover it up with some clear embossing powder. So here I'm just going to show you really quick how I color this in. So what I tend to do when I'm coloring with alcohol markers, there's a couple different ways of going about it. I usually start with a light color, then come in with a medium, then reblend it, then come in with the dark and reblend it. Now some people start with dark right away. Some people start with the medium tone. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just do it however it works for you. So here I'm using some Illustrator markers, and for my shadows, instead of using a darker orange, I'm actually coming in with a brown. That makes it a little bit more vivid, I guess you can say. It makes it pop a little bit more, but see how nicely they still blend together? So I'm just going in, and anywhere I think that there's going to be a little shadow, so like under his paws, towards the bottom of the pumpkin, that's probably the hardest part, is deciding where your light source is going to be. So, and that's also how you make it look realistic. So I'm just going in with that darker one, and then I'm blending it out. And it's really, really easy to do. So I came in a couple times, and then I also came back with a blender where I wanted the highlights to be, and I just added that in a little bit. Now you have the option where you can always just leave that white and not color in, or you can use a lighter color first and not color over it, but I kind of like using the blending tool. It's kind of fun. So now I'm just adding a little bit of grays around his face. I'm just using one color, and then I'm using the blending tool to kind of blend it. Make it look softer, and then I'm coming with a little bit of pink for his nose. So I kept this really simple, and then I used coordinating dies. So I also stamped and heat embossed that cute little boo, and these dies I'm securing down with my purple tape. I cannot die cut now without my purple tape. It is absolutely required. So I ran it through a die cutting machine, and now you can see how cute that is. If you don't have coordinating dies, that's completely okay. You can just trim them out by hand. So now to create the background, I'm using some Distress Oxide inks. I have a piece of black cardstock, and I am just going in with a blending tool, and I am adding some of my colors of my Distress Oxide inks. So this is the Fired Brick, and I'm going to add some Spice Marmalade and Fossilized Amber as well. That's the Spice Marmalade. So I wanted this to kind of mimic a sunset a little bit, but I knew that by using the Distress Oxide inks on the black, it wasn't going to be really vibrant, but that's okay because I'm going to add foil to it at the end, and that was really kind of what I wanted the star of the show to be, but I didn't just want it on plain black cardstock. I wanted to add something to it. I love creating my own background, so this way I'm still kind of creating my own background, and that I'm not just having plain cardstock. But also because when it dries and when I spray some water on it, and I'm going to go over it again, it is kind of more subtle, I guess you could say. So then once you have the foil on there, the foil really does steal the show. So here I'm just going to spray it. This kind of activates it. It ends up looking almost like velvety, I guess you can say. And then once that was dry, I just came back in again with one more layer. You can see how much more vibrant it is before you add the spray to it. And I didn't go all over the place. I just wanted to add a little bit because I knew at the bottom I was going to add the foil. So I just kind of did it in the one corner, just in a certain area. I didn't want to take up the entire piece of cardstock again. So like I said, once you sprayed it, it becomes kind of velvet. So here, instead of spraying it, I'm just going to kind of flick water. So by doing this, it does react with the water, and you do have some water droplets. Now, if you're used to using regular Distress ink, it is not the same whatsoever. This is not nearly as obvious when you flick water on it. So I also took a clear sparkle marker and flicked that on there too. I kind of figured trick-or-treating, sunset, maybe night sky, kind of emulate stars a little bit. And then now this is where I'm going to add the foil. So I have my Starburst stencil, and I just secured it using my purple tape. I gotta hold it down. And now I'm just coming in with my DecoFoil adhesive pen. There's so many uses for this pen. You can literally use this thing for everything. But one of my favorite ways to use it is for a stencil. So I'm just loosely going in and just kind of coloring in some parts of the stencil. Now in that one corner, it did get a little bit out of control. I squeezed a little too hard. So off camera, I did fix it. I kind of trimmed it off, and then I also used like a rubber pickup and got some of that off, so it's just not as obvious. It still gets on there a little bit, but since I trimmed it off, I kind of fixed it. Mistakes happen all the time, right? We got to go with it. So now I have some pumpkin DecoFoil, and once the adhesive was 100% dry, I just pressed this DecoFoil onto it, and you can see that now it's all foil. So this was the background I was talking about. So you can compare it next to a regular piece of cardstock, or even the back that we created our own background. We have some kind of flecks of water and flecks of sparkle on there along with the foil. I think the foil really is more obvious than that background. The background's just kind of subtle there. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start assembling the card. I'm just using some smaller 3D foam squares. You can use the larger ones, you can use strips, whatever works for you. And I'm just putting it on a I had another panel cut just a little bit larger. That main panel was 3 3/4 by 5, so I'm putting it on a little bit larger and then a standard card base. And now I am securing all those die cuts that we did onto the card to finish off the card, and that is it. Easy peasy, and that foil looks fantastic. So thanks so much for stopping by. Make sure to hashtag DecoFoil and hashtag ThermOWeb so we can find you online. Have a great day.